Welcome to Gloomwood, a first-person stealth action survival horror game currently being developed by a two-man team composed of Dylan Rogers and David Szymanski, the minds behind popular throwback shooter Dusk. Like Dusk, Gloomwood boasts a simple yet effective graphical style, with low-res textures on basic 3D models, being somewhat reminiscent of early 2000s PC and PS1 games. You play as the Good Doctor, who's been abducted and brought to a mysterious city in the midst of a horrifying transformation. You wake in a pit with two ominous figures known as Crowmen discussing your fate.
They want us to bring him to the city gates.
Before you hear a voice coming from the darkness.
A good doctor. What an unfortunate predicament you found yourself in.
This voice, seemingly that of a friend, informs you that in order to escape this wretched place, you should make your way towards the lighthouse.
Look for the old lighthouse on the coast. I've left instructions there.
The door opens and you're left to figure things out. You'll have to sneak, steal, stab, and shoot in order to survive. The game takes inspiration from a few places, the most inescapable influence being from Thief, with similar movement, an emphasis on stealth, and even a light gem, if done in a slightly more immersive way here. As well as classic survival horror games such as Resident Evil, with its grid-based inventory system, scarce resources, and limited saves, all topped with a sprinkling of Lovecraftian goodness. Gloomwood has 4 difficulty settings that impact the game in several ways, like the save system, resource scarcity, enemy presence, as well as their damage and behaviour. For the sake of this video, I've done 2 playthroughs. One on Half Moon, which is the game's normal difficulty, and one on Blood Moon, or Very Hard. Blood Moon is the only difficulty that incorporates the previously mentioned resource-based saves, where in Resi, you would need a ribbon to record your progress. Here, you need a wax cylinder to play on the phonograph. This system drastically increases the difficulty and tension. This single change made the entire experience so much more stressful. Escape multiple crowmen, steal the key, get the map, and get away with some shiny loot, all to realise you don't even have a save on you. Despite the added stress and anxiety, or perhaps because of it, you should at very least try the game on its Blood Moon difficulty, and experience it for yourself. While this is primarily a stealth title, where using distractions and environmental interactions to your advantage is very much encouraged, it's ultimately up to you to decide how you'll tackle the various situations in which you'll find yourself. Sometimes a less subtle approach can be just as effective. So let's take a look at the diverse selection of tools at your disposal. First off, there's your classy cane sword, which will act as your only melee attack, used for opening boxes, breaking boards, or luring guards. In regards to combat, it's mainly used for stealth takedowns, but can be a capable weapon in one-on-one melee fights, thanks to the parry, that if held, may also act as an ineffective block, but I'm not too sure exactly how effective it is, since the parry timing is fairly generous and negates all damage, so I mostly stuck to that. The revolver is the first gun that you can find, or at least the first gun you find that you can actually use. Its effectiveness is somewhat undermined if you want to be sneaky, since the revolver is pretty loud, often drawing several enemies to the source of the gunshot. This can, however, be used to your advantage. Outside of its function though, just take a look at this thing. Quite honestly, I made up my mind that I was going to buy this game the moment I got my hands on it. The sleek design, the way you check how many shots are left, and the reload animation. The reload animation. The Undertaker pistol will act as your utility weapon. Much like Thief's bow or Dishonored's crossbow, this gun can be loaded with various kinds of bolts that serve different tasks. At the moment there's 3 types of ammo, including the slug bolt, that's just a heavy projectile that can be used to interact with buttons, break glass and distract enemies. The choke bolt that can extinguish fires, stun enemies and interrupt attacks. As well as the incendiary slugs that, set shit on fire. Finally there's the shotgun, which can seem somewhat overpowered. At least on Half Moon. With ammo plentiful and one taps constant, this 5-shot pump action crow killer could maybe tempt a lesser man to forego the whole stealth element entirely. Not so much on Blood Moon however, since you'll have considerably less ammo and more enemies to deal with. In order to get the shotgun, you'll have to do a little more than find a safe. You'll have to navigate your way into and around the Slaughtered Goat Tavern, and with that, its namesake. The only real downside to the shotgun is that you can't have your lantern equipped while using it, so it sometimes makes it tricky to see what you're shooting at. One thing that's particularly impressive about the game is its sound design, that is, again, comparable to Thief, in that the environment and the surface that you're walking on can very much be your downfall if you don't pay attention. You have to be aware of where you're stepping and what you're stepping on at all times, especially on the higher difficulties. But the same is true for the enemies, as you can quite easily tell their location based on the sounds of their footsteps. I also love the way Gloomwood uses ambient sound to add to the atmosphere. Hearing the crackle of the fire, the howl of the wind, or something unknown in the distance. It really adds to the overall immersion. The art direction, again, is very much inspired by Thief, to the extent at which you could mistake some assets for having been directly ripped from those games. The doors especially are like for like. That aside, Gloomwood also takes clear inspirations from the likes of Bloodborne, with certain enemies and environments quite closely resembling counterparts found there. The time that I spent here was an intense and intriguing romp through an extremely well realised world, that was unfortunately cut short when I hit the end of the currently available build around 3 to 4 hours in. After playing through what's been released so far, I've got to say, I'm a little bit in love with this game. I only wish there was more of it to explore, but the developers are constantly updating the game with new features and areas, so I can't wait to see what comes next. If you're a fan of immersive sims or survival horror games, I'd highly recommend you check out Gloomwood. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe and all that. And thanks for watching.